consciousness is about information. Consciousness is an information system. Now, what we're conscious of in our physical body, which I call the avatar, it's your physical body is an avatar.
Mm-hmm.
We're just conscious of the information that comes through our five senses. That's the information. Now, in consciousness itself, there's a lot more information. All that subjective side is also information. Understanding is information. Knowing is information. Now, it's not just information, but as consciousness, it's what you make of that information. It's how you interpret that data. That's what I'm calling information. So the information isn't the data. It's the content. It's the meaning. It's the significance. It's the understanding. That's the information, not data. Okay. So when I saw consciousness as an information system, I realized that consciousness as a system is evolving. Systems change. That's just the nature. We grow, we change. I knew I had grown, I had changed, and I know everything else kind of grows and changes with time. And because I'm a physicist, I have to see things as finite. That's why I would not use the word infinite. It's finite. It is not perfect. It doesn't know everything, or it doesn't, it can't pay attention to everything at once. It's a finite system, but it, to us, would appear infinite. It is everything. Everything not only we do know, but everything we can know. We cannot get outside of the system because we are of the system. And we are just subsets of that system. Now, if you're a computer scientist, you'd say we were, a partition off a piece of that system. So we're a piece of that system, a virtual machine inside a larger machine. However you say it, we're just a subset of that. We are it. Yeah. And that old phrase of we're one, it's true. We are one. So now I saw consciousness as an information system. Information systems evolve by lowering their entropy, by creating information and the value of that information. I saw this whole reality as a virtual reality where our body is the avatar. Consciousness is our consciousness. Consciousness is the player. The body's the avatar. And then I started applying the logic of virtual reality, just like our virtual reality games. Consciousness is the player, makes all the choices. Consciousness is a choice-making machine. I define consciousness as awareness that makes a choice. Therefore, things like consciousness, time, free will all go together. And they are diametrically opposed to things like determinism and materialism. Those two are incompatible with each other. Yeah. So that's my model, that this is a virtual reality. And from that model of virtual reality, I also concluded that it had to be a top-down probabilistic virtual reality, because virtual realities are computed. And being a physicist, I do a lot of creating models with computers. So I know a little bit about how that works. And the way this has to take place is our physical reality is a virtual reality that has evolved. It wasn't programmed, it's evolved. You have initial conditions and a rule set, and you just push the run button and let it run. And it evolves. The initial conditions were what we call the Big Bang, a ball of plasma, high temperature, high pressure. And you let that evolve according to the rule set, which is what we call science. Scientists dig out the rules. That's their job. So I see this as a virtual reality. And from that, I can deductively see how the speed of light must be a constant, because you can only move 1 pixel of distance for 1 pixel of time in a simulation. I can see how quantum mechanics comes to the conclusion that reality is information because it's computed. And I can see how it's computed and why statistics and probability is at the top, which you have a more deterministic rule set. Underneath creating those probability distributions. So from a scientific viewpoint, from a computer science viewpoint, using computers, information, and that sort of thing as metaphors. So I'm not saying it's a computer.
No.
I'm saying computer science provides me with metaphors that I can use to describe this consciousness. So I see ourselves as individuated units of consciousness. Okay, and that's a little virtual machine inside the bigger machine, a subset, if you will. Okay, so that sort of metaphor then leads to a model from which a better physics can also be derived. So that's kind of my take on this. It comes to the exact same conclusions that Rupert comes to, and you have to own it in an exact same way. You have to be it and live it. It's not just an intellectual understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you can do. I find that where you end up is just in a larger reality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I live in the physical reality in the sense that my avatar here is active and I'm conscious making those choices. But at the same time, I live in a larger reality than that. There's this larger reality has information that's not in the physical, but I have access to it intuitively. We can process information in two paths. One's the intuitive path and one's the intellectual path. And the intuitive path has access to lots of information.
Mm.
But the process of accessing that path is kind of problematical. It depends on you and how much you understand, the quietness of your mind, the depth of your thinking and understanding.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the intellectual path has a very exact process called logic.
Yeah.
You see, but logic fails because there's not enough information to be deductive. So the two together are fantastic. You have that intuitive side that has access to all the understanding and information, and that intellectual side that has the logic. And then you just live in this larger reality.
Yeah.
So you understand things from a bigger perspective. You have more choices, a bigger decision space.
Yeah.
And that's where one ends up.